I'm experimenting with and training an AI to tell me about my stories. So I have been uploading files to embed in the Dennis Wright's workspace. So I asked the AI, can you tell me about the story Bystander Stan? Now, I do not have the agent invoked. So it's just going by this file, which names my stories and tells a little bit about them. So it gave me some information, but I wanted information from the file I just embedded. So here I invoke the agent. And it still goes back to this, which is not what I wanted. So, okay. And it's still doing that. So I have to work on my prompting. Okay, so now I'm spelling it out. I want you to answer questions based on files I embedded into the Dennis Wright's workspace. The Chroma database now has a folder called Marvu. Please read it and answer. Okay, so now I've invoked the agent, and it still goes back to that original data file. Okay, it says, with your permission, I can now access the files. Okay, and now it's still getting information from that file because the one I just embedded is not March 4th, it is July. So it does a reasonable job of telling about the main characters in the story. Of course, James is not the main character, Sarah is. So I asked it to describe Sarah. And it still goes back to this, but these details obviously come from the story itself, not from my spreadsheet with the title and the date it was created and a description. So, okay. And it kind of gets this wrong because Sarah's the main character, and it's about James, I believe, is only mentioned in the first chapter or two and never again. So, no, it kind of gets some of this wrong. But basically, this is still getting information from that file because the one I just embedded is not March 4th, it is July. Basically, this is a good way that I can get it to tell me about characters in the stories. I'm going to have to be specific that I want things like age, physical description, and like that. But I plan to use Sarah in another story, so you can see how useful this is for a writer to have your stories read in and to have a way to get data from them. So that's the whole point of this. And as I train it, I will get it to get closer, or as I train myself to prompt better to get the information I want. This will be very, very useful. I used to do this with an Access database that, of course, I had to buy a new version of Microsoft Access every once in a while, and Access, the database program, is not included in the default Microsoft suite. So you have to pay extra for Access. And my sister was doing this for me, and I felt bad because I thought, well, I'll just switch over to LibreOffice and I will do it in Base. Well, I tried to get it to read the database, and I had a whole database program. I had queries of all sorts. I could get all sorts of information out of it. Well, when I read the database over into Base, I did not get my queries, which to recreate hundreds of queries, no, I just didn't want to do that. So at that point, I just quit using the database to do it, and I just made all sorts of accessory files, which got pretty confusing. So this is a way to help me get organized and be able to get information from my stories, especially where I've got a character that appears in multiple stories. I want to know if they grew and changed during that time, if their physical appearance changed, because I do occasionally have somebody change species or something, so I need to know the timeline on that. So there's all sorts of information that when I learn to prompt it correctly, I can get the information out of this. So this is going to be very useful for me.